Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here and you came back after yesterday. So welcome to the Daily Medicine Transmission. It is November 2nd, 2021. And I'm going to burn some Palo Santo here for just a moment. So welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here. I truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate your subscriptions, your comments, the sharing of this content, even liking this video. All of these things not only support the channel in terms of having it spread out to a wider audience, impacting algorithm, but it means a lot to me personally. I've gotten a lot of very positive and encouraging feedback from yesterday's transmission. Sometimes you just have to go with it, and it's not always as polished and perfect as you'd like it to be. And, I got too many things in my chart that lead me in this meat suit, in this personality, to really strive for perfectionism. It's taken me many, many years to let go of that identity of wanting to be perfect in everything that I do and flawless, right? And I know that most, if not all, human beings struggle with this at some point and in some area of their life. But it's these identities that we erroneously think that they are us, and we become attached to them, and then we start acting from those places, and we make really bad decisions. And that's okay, because if you accept that failure and mistakes and raw unedited live streams that are just like, I don't know what's happening, I just know how I feel right now, you learn a lot, and your feedback has been tremendous. Not that I was expecting any encouragement necessarily, but to know that it's really across the board right now. So there's a lot of things that I feel like could be adding to this. So there's a couple things that I want to bring up just in terms of what's going on in terms of the solar weather and our sun. I think this has a lot to do with what's going on. And of course, where we're at in the cycle of humanity and the planet itself and this awakening process and this very massive shift in evolutionary consciousness that we're all going through right now. These are massive cycles that are about to turn over in a lot of ways. And so there's so much natural pressure building up as a result of that. And we have an impact on that. Each and every one of us has an impact on the whole based on how we feel, and specifically the things that we decide and choose to do, to focus on, to pay attention to, all those things. But we don't want to ever deny how we feel, especially when it doesn't match up with what we are being told or have been told in the past. This is how you should feel. Standard response to real palpable anxiety all day for a reason that was not related to anything externally that I could attach to, right? I mean, yes, there's been a lot of tragedy in my life and a lot of stress, but there's also not, up until this point, it's not like I've been overtly anxious about it before. So it was a very interesting experience to have palpable, very visceral anxiety symptoms, right? Like, in my body, in my chest, and also to be the observer, to be the witness of it and be like, wow, that's pretty remarkable that I'm having these experiences. And as I stand in that witness or observer position, I don't feel anxious. There is nothing to be anxious about. There is only the now moment, but to push it away or to not acknowledge or honor those experiences, I think is really a disservice to us. And of course, there seems to be this crossover, and it's not that, once you start really tapping into the energetic template of what is as an intuitive or a reader, as a psychic, any of those things, which we're all leading to, by the way, this work that I'm doing ultimately will be obsolete, because we will all be in a place at that 4 to 5D density where these types of modalities won't be as relevant anymore when we are directly interacting and communicating telepathically and energetically. This is merely a stepping stone. And when you're trapped in the lower fourth density, then yeah, these are the modalities that people or other beings become reliant upon, right? That they can't move past this. So anyway, I know that I'm jumping all over the place, but there is something to be said for the silent witness, but also at the same time honoring very definitive feelings. Oh, that's where it was. The crossover is not that, it's certainly not that mind-blowing when you start to see the individuals who have stepped into a particular position. Doesn't mean they're any better. Nobody's any better than anybody else. We all have our different skill sets and our ability to step forward and utilize them. But there seems to be a very consistent crossover with what I present, and then Lori Ladd, for instance. And I know there's others too. Phil Good seems to be on that same wavelength. And she said it so perfectly in like this little succinct, 2-minute clip yesterday. Don't ever deny how you feel. Don't let the external matrix dictate how you should feel or shouldn't feel in a situation, because this is where we're getting our information, right? And the sun has just been relentless. So let's move into that, because I want to show you how, remember we talked about how solar weather, solar flaring, even CMEs have an impact on the cardiovascular system. So we've just been pummeled with solar weather, solar flare after solar flare, CME, and we're going to get another one. And interestingly enough, it's going to be on the 4th of our new moon and possibly the 5th of November. So, it's almost like the sun has its own intelligence and consciousness and is just like, here, more information. And of course, with the sun in Scorpio right now, the information that's coming through that particular where it's positioned, that archetypal area of our lives, it really is about what we create together. We are responsible for what we produce, for better or for worse. There's nobody else really to quote unquote blame other than ourselves. And this is why love based on a sense of responsibility. It's great. The Venusian love when it feels good to us, or the Leo love when it gets our blood pumping, right? The passion part of it. All of those things are wonderful, but it's the Scorpio. It's love based on responsibility to what we produce together. This is a way more intense type of experience. And it's like this every year. I mean, it's not like this is the first time the sun is coming to Scorpio in that Scorpio part of the sky. But all of the other things combined is making it that much more intense. So I hope people are doing well. Take care of yourself. One thing that has helped me consistently and continues to do so is to be part of the natural world. We can... I can do a short video or explain it in a post if people find this helpful. This is something that would be good feedback about if you find this helpful, about how to connect with your Earth Star chakra, because that has been indispensable for me, right? Is that chakra that is like 3 feet below you, but is still very much part of your toroidal field. And it's like a juncture point. You can just plug that right into the grid of the planet and get charged up and tethered in. And this has been probably the most... this has been really saving me from very, like I said, very palpable anxiety that just doesn't seem to even make sense. And it's like, what's wrong? And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just know I'm having these symptoms right now. And so I have some ideas, of course. I have some very significant ideas, and the sun is one of those ideas. So let's actually get right into that. I just want to show you a couple of things, and I'm going to actually drop the links in Telegram of all of the Schumann resonance graphs that I use. So I have, and we're going to look at a couple of them because what we're going to find is one of them isn't really updated. So here is, speaking of which, here we go. This is the one right from Tom's State University, which is in Russia. This is the primary, this is where a lot of the websites and people that are the different places where people are picking up on the Schumann. This is ultimately where it's coming from. This is the place that is actually doing the tracking and recording of it, and then people take their information from here and they publish it on their various websites, their blogs, whatever. So the reason I want to show you this is because what we're going to see here is there actually is a blackout, or was a blackout, roughly around the time it looks like that we may have been getting another blast of solar weather. So it may have actually shorted out their instruments. It's very possible that it shorted out their instruments to even measure it. So what we're going to see here is what we're looking at is the usual place that I get my Schumann resonance graphs, because it has the amplitude, the quality, and the frequency. And we're going to see, I just want to show you real quick just how weird it's all been. So we see here that it's just been a pretty consistent amplitude variation, right? The spikes are pretty consistent, and the solar weather has been very consistent. We've just been getting flare after CME, after X-ray, solar flare. It's been a lot. And what is light? It's information. We are getting information, and it's good that we're getting information, because we're going to want this information as we take it into the lab the beginning of this lunar cycle and start acting like an inventor or some other, think about Tesla, for instance. That's a great avatar of this new moon, if you think about it. And in Scorpio, yes, it is about what we produce in our relationships, but that relationship can be framed in any way, with your significant other, with a business, right? Your business partnerships, people that you're engaged in any kind of organization with, or you've had some sort of commitment to, and each other as a whole, right? Our relationship to the larger context and to ourselves, right? That's a big part of it too. So Tesla, I feel like, is a great avatar to, to really focus on for this new moon. So the information is just coming in, and it's confusing, and it is really stressing people out. Somebody shared with me yesterday that, nobody was in a good mood, right? People were letting off steam in really weird ways all day. So it really is much more of a generalized experience. I just don't go out of my property. I don't go away from, it's either here in my parents' house. That's about it. At this point, like, I'm very insular, and so I'm not often going out. I don't have a job that I go to necessarily, so it's hard for me to gauge. But at the same time, that also allows me to really hone my energetic antenna in general. So, but people are really feeling it, and I've gotten lots of messages from different people, random people calling, that it's some of it's not good news at all, and it's really stressful. Some of it, I suspect it may be, but it might just be people reaching out. Like, there's just new information and upgraded, enhanced information that's coming in with this solar weather that I think is really, it's just a lot. It's like an overload. And one of the things that came through, and I know that I have this graph up, and I'll show you the things as we go through it, is one of the things that really came to me, especially with yesterday's transmission with the shape shifting, I discovered, through a 10-second, research on the internet, that squid and octopus, for instance, especially squid, they're very, very large. And so they live, and octopus too, they live at very deep waters, and that's a lot of pressure, right? And with Scorpio, this is the abyss. They're sinking into the abyss, and we talked about this yesterday with the abyss and the movie The Abyss and what's down there, and getting crushed by the pressure. Well, these animals have an organic molecule that reinforces the cell walls within them so that they are not crushed under pressure. So they've either evolved over time, or wherever this came from, of course, it's evolution, because we don't have any other way of explaining, well, we do, but anyway, let's just leave it at that. It's an organic biological mechanism that a biochemical mechanism that allows for these animals to withstand the physical pressure, right? And so it does appear that on some level, the Tesla avatar going into the lab, trying to figure this out, is really going to be part of figuring out what it is that we need to integrate or upgrade to, what kind of natural enhancement do we need in order to keep from getting crushed under the pressure of what we produce, for better or for worse. This is what Scorpio is all about. And this is why it's very dark in this area. And it's the feeling, right? It's not using the mind. That's Libra, right? With our moon in Libra, we're in our dark moon period, and we'll get into the astrology. I'm trying to keep it streamlined here. But there's something that, and I talked about this in the post that I made, there's something here that has us really going to work on figuring out what's at the root of things, and then how do we enhance ourselves? What can we produce collectively that will keep us from crushing under the very pressure of just having authentic and raw and real relationships with each other? That's the other thing about Scorpio. I mean, it's really just, you get what you put in all sides. And so, but the deeper you go, the more the pressure is. Anyway, that's a lot. That's a mouthful. Thank you for sticking with it. Yes, it is like grounding. Okay, you've convinced me already, Emily, that I'm going to make a very short meditation video to explain this, because I think a couple of people have asked about it now, and this has been my saving grace, honestly, is to get connected to this chakra. And the 7 chakra system is a total lie. We have way more. They haven't come online quite yet, but the Earth Star Chakra has been online for quite a while, and we just haven't used it yet. So I will do that. And I can talk to you personally because you are due for a reading. So I will also go into that in detail in your reading as well, because I'm sure it's going to come up in the context of the reading, this type of grounding. So we're seeing here certainly that there's these amplitude changes, and of course there's the quality. So the quality like shoots up on this end and then drops back down. Same thing with the red, right? That's always variable. It's always up and down. And this shoots up yesterday and then drops back down just as the amplitude is going up along, just across the board. This is yesterday. This is roughly about noon-ish. Eastern Standard Time. So, but then we go down and we look, and look at this. So same thing, the frequency just drops, and it drops big time on this, this whole area, the yellow and then the red, which has been pretty mellow, right? You see that there's a massive on the 31st on Halloween, there's a really big jump, and then a dip, and then right back up to it. It's like a very drastic shift in the pitch, and then it drops again. And we've talked about what that means too, right? Every time the amplitude gets very very big, the pitch drops, and the quality or the tone of it has to, in order to keep the quality and the tone very high, for instance, the pitch drops, the embouchure drops, or whatever, right? Your vocal cords get wider and more relaxed because it allows out much louder and higher amplitude, higher wavelength, and a lower pitch. Anyway, we've talked about that. I just want to show you just how, it's just all over the place right now. And so, but this doesn't go past, this is 10 p.m. UTC last night. So we haven't even, it's blacked out right now. So if I show you this is from the Russian university. And so there's even a blackout here from this point. I'm not exactly sure what time this is at this point because I think it's local to Russia. This, which would make sense actually, that it's, getting close to the evening over there right now. So there's a big blackout here, and you can see that even at this point, you can see the white is getting really, really bright and dense. So we know that things are, the amplitude got really loud, really loud. And what I want to show you just real quick here, and like I said, I'm going to drop, and space suspicious observers. I mean, if you're not following them on YouTube, I mean, they really do an incredible job of laying all of this out. There's our Enlil spiral. So you're going to see how that comes out. So boom, there's our CME that came off. That's expected to hit about the 4th or the 5th. So you can see this is the solar wind. It's gone up considerably. Look at all this. This is just crazy all over the place. Here's our geomagnetic unrest, right? We get auroras, and the solar wind speed has increased considerably at the same time. So, and if you look at here, this is, again, geomagnetic unrest as well. You can see it pop. It came down and then it popped back up again. It's not in the red, so we're not getting massive like shortages or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But we're just getting pummeled. So here is their suspicious observers YouTube channel and today's video. So he explains it really, really well. So we know we're getting pummeled. We're getting pummeled by the Schumann, or by the sun, and we're getting lots and lots of information. So it's been it's been crazy. So, and people are feeling it all over the place, right? Everybody's having it in their own way. And to feel it so raw, right? It's pretty remarkable. And I would say that, if you can get to a point where you are able to be the silent observer and witness to very, very palpable, visceral feelings, then I think you're doing okay. And it's okay. It's okay to feel what you're feeling, right? Because, now we're at a point where the technology that we've all kind of invited into our lives does have an impact on, because our consciousness is just energy too. And so if you have electromagnetic waves coming out of your Wi-Fi router, coming out of your devices that are connected to the Wi-Fi through, or Bluetooth, that's a big one too. I mean, I love using Bluetooth, but it's not good for you. It can send signals right into you, right? And so this is why they call it an information war, because, there was a time where, they couldn't get to your thoughts, but that is not the case anymore. And so we have to remain ever vigilant about our energetic field and our consciousness, because it's accessible now. And we've invited in the technology that pretty much makes it very easy for them to do. I'm just doing it right here by streaming. So, but then again, this is how we're all connected too right now. So it's a double-edged sword, of course. Oh, as always. So let's look at the reading for today. So I hope people are taking care of themselves and doing well as they can, right? As well as they can, and reaching out for help or assistance or support when you need it, because this is Sun in Scorpio time and Vesta in Scorpio. So it certainly is our responsibility to take care of each other, and that's what it means to be in a collective, in a community, in a family, in a society. We have to. So here's our reading for today. And when we get into the astrology, I'm going to go pretty deep, because there's some things that came up from yesterday that are applicable to, they've worked themselves out and are applicable to today's astrology, because it's pretty intense. And so I'm kind of glad that, we were getting bombarded with new information, because what's coming down the pipeline right now is nothing short of just incredible, as far as I can tell. Okay, guys. So we start here with our Two of Swords. Thank God. The moon is in Libra right now. So this is pretty relevant, and plus it's very welcome right now. So peace of mind, the Two of Swords. It's the only time in the entire Swords suit, besides the Four of Swords, where the Swords suit, or the air element, is actually completely balanced, right? It is peace of mind. It is the beginning of analysis, right? Yesterday's reading ended with this high priestess, right? Going very deeply within. And so, and allowing ourselves to draw our power from our stillness and in that yin phase and being receptive. And that really, again, that really did assist me in this process, to, instead of trying to use your mind to like figure it out or to feed the anxiety or stuff it away, just be still and just allow yourself to feel what is happening. So now coming into this moment, there is a sense of peace, at least from a mental perspective. And I definitely felt way more rested, way more balanced, no anxiety when I woke up this morning. So I can relate to this personally, but I do feel like too, that with the moon in Libra, it's really drawing a lot of us towards finding that harmony and balance within ourselves. And and feeling it with other people. So this is the best chance for this suit to indicate its powers without showing its shadow. So this is like before anything else gets involved. This is the Two of Swords. So arrangement of differences, a compromise between your soul and your mind, right? You can't really give up either of them at this point. So you have to find a place where they meet in the middle, literally. And with the moon, it's definitely about the soul, how we feel, and our spirit, and the mind. And so we see that there are geometric figures all around, and we have the two swords that are crossed within the vessel, right? Inside of this, it looks like a flower. It could be a bowl or a chalice of some sort, but it's the middle here. The thing that's holding, would be holding, is the center point of these two seemingly opposed aspects finding their crossover or midpoint. So it's just a moment where you're like, okay, peace of mind, literally. And peace within our soul for a moment, right? So that's a pretty great way to start. And then it just immediately, the heart of it right here, the Knight of Wands. I mean, you go from the two of Swords, and you're going to see that you end up at the Two of Wands, also reversed though. So, and we're going to see how we get there. But in the heart, this is, what can we say? It's the Knight of Wands. I mean, this is a bold and noble leader, born leader full of idealism, right? Honest, proud, and commanding. This is spiritual realization and the expansion of spiritual individuality, right? There is Mars written all over this. And Mars in Scorpio right now is a big part of this dynamic. And this is a court card, so it's us. Right? People in our lives, like actual people that are embodying this energy, either us or other people we know, or it's being shown to us through people out there in our external world. This is a strong will, high inspirations, and spiritual realization, right? I mean, the horse is just, up on its hind leg. It's ready to hi-oh silver away type of thing. He's got a flaming club, right? And is just ready to go, has all of this idealism, has all of this really noble and honest intention behind it. And of course, the Knight of Wands could also, there's nothing else to balance it out. It's just all fire, all fire. So we're on a quest now. We're on a quest, and we're going to be inflamed, as warriors in some way to get somewhere. And with Mars, when we go into the astrology, where Mars is today, as it's making its way through Scorpio now, we're going to see that it's really directed towards, really directed towards a cooperative event or some sort of ambitious drive to do something in a collective way or in a relational way, because we are talking about Scorpio, but it's really powerful, very, very powerful. So when we look at where we are subconsciously, embedded, where we're drawing our power from, the core of who we are. Now, remember, yesterday was the Five of Forces, and it was reversed, right? The winter. Now, what comes after the winter but the spring? So this is the Four of Forces. Now it's upright, so it's spring. And so there's something about yesterday we had this opportunity to really just sit with it, right? And just let it be still and silent, like the landscape covered in snow. It looks like nothing's happening. but you know that it is under many layers of seeming stillness. This is much more about the active preparation for the growing season. So the springtime represents the tilling of the soil and the preparation of the land and getting ready to plant the seeds and to plant the seeds, right? This is a very active, creative cycle represented by the four forces. So we've gone from that point, and now energetically and subconsciously, deep down where we are gathering our resources energetically from, this is now about preparing the space for this new thing to grow. And then we come up through like this blazing heart, that we're all holding right now, this version of ourselves that is ready to like go out and be this, noble spiritual warrior. And what we find here is a very inverted sense of our divine power, and where it's coming from. This is, speaking of flaming heart, right? Here's Archangel Michael, number 9, right? So we're speaking of Tesla, 3, 6, and 9. You understanding the universe in relation to frequency and vibration, specifically through 3, 6, and 9, right? So this is about our channel divine power, Archangel Michael. The flaming sword, and so this is more about the channel itself, whereas the Knight of Wands representing each of us, or some representation in a person, in our own personal lives, in our own way, feeling like we're ready to like get up and go. This is much more of the larger archetype of the spiritual warrior and the flaming sword, and what Michael is here to do, which is uplift those who can't uplift themselves, like these children, for instance. Now, when it's reversed like this is really pointing to the fact that this is where I think we're getting into some interesting territory, which is why the silence and really, really sitting with what was happening yesterday for us was really important. Because if we didn't, this is I think what we would really be struggling with, because this is an inversion of where this divine power is coming from, this channel, or it is not fully open. That's a possibility as well. It's not fully open. We've lost connection with where we channel our divine power from, or we don't see it, right? In terms of our conscious awareness, we may be looking for it and be like, where is it? I don't know. I don't see it. Or we think that's what it is, and it's actually deception. That seems to be hard, especially when we look at the cards surrounding it. I'm getting a big deception vibe about where we believe and where we're putting our focus and conscious attention on in terms of what is this power? Where is it coming from? And who is bringing it? I think this is important too. So we'll get there because the outcome to expect in these situations here, the Two of Wands or Dominion is, the beginning it's the beginning manifestation of the idea that's driving the Knight of Wands. But in its reversal, again, there is, this is destruction, revenge, restlessness, shamelessness, right? There is definitely some shamelessness, right? You will go and do and put these seeds into action, whatever they are, and it doesn't matter what they are. It's just to satisfy your own impulse to actualize yourself, right? Because that's where the Two of Wands does represent Mars, as you can see, Mars in Aries. And so this is the most, other than the ace itself, this is the first real expression of the pureness of this energy of Aries. Is the newness, it's the beginning, it's the fresh spark of life. So Dominion is like that real it's confidence, but not really. It's confidence in a way that is, there's not even a sense of confidence. It's just go. It's just act. It's just ego-based survival in some ways, right? It's impulse. So when it's reversed, it looks exactly the same, except the sharp points of these rods or these wands are faced up, right? Which are a lot more dangerous than when they're face down. Anybody that works with any kind of weapons can kind of wrap their minds around this, right? This is inverted too. And this is based on specifically the idea that we've had some peace of mind, and there's nothing wrong with that. And like I said, the moon in Libra right now is really encouraging this and fulfilling it in a lot of ways. But we have an incredible fire at the center, but it's this inversion of Michael. Where is this channel of power? Are we disconnected from it? Is it inverted in some way? Are we thinking it's something when it's actually not, or it's being presented to us in a way that is meant to deceive us? If that's the case, then yeah, you can see how there will be, it's less about the manifestation of this idea for the first time and more about, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to bring it about. Destruction, revenge, being very restless, right? This could also feed into like feelings of anxiety when you're like, I don't know, and try to do something about it, then you get destructive or you get very restless. Revenge is a big one too, especially if you feel disempowered. If this is a feeling of disempowerment, like completely cut off from your channel of divine power coming through, you can find really inappropriate ways to reconnect you to some version of power. And the Draco activation that happened over the weekend with the sun square to Saturn, it's sticking with us, right? Because we're talking about the sun still. And it's like, that's when the solar weather really started blasting, I feel like, it's just relentless over the weekend. So if we, again, are not really well aligned with, like the source of divine power, and we are allowing some sort of lower, lesser, or we feel disempowered, this is where it's headed, right? A dominion, but it's not in a spiritually uplifted or inspired way. I mean, it could be technically spiritually inspired, but it will be more destructive and reckless. So, I'm glad that I got it out of my system yesterday. So, when we're creating space for something new, let's start with the panda, actually. So we're creating space, we're putting action, right? The Four of Force is about putting action, active time of preparation, right? It's part of the yang aspect of the cycle to prepare the land. And just like that, the panda is talking about creating a sacred space for yourself. And this could be in your home or in your workplace, if that's different, or really just within yourself. And I would say that creating a sacred space in the energetic centers at the lower part of your body, the Earth Star chakra and your root chakra, your sacral chakra, all of these places we could turn into a sacred space so that we have a space to go to that we revere, that is meant for our opportunity to commune with divine source and that which we identify as sacred. So this is, bringing us to this message of how important this is to do as per this preparation time to prepare the land for something new to grow and to give it a sense of sacredness. I think that's really, really important. And this has just been, the Eight of Roses or the Sangha, the fact that it's reversed. I think that this is really a struggle for people. And I can certainly relate because trying to determine where you belong, who you belong with, like who is the group or what is the group of like-minded people. I think that it's shifting and changing so much right now that it's gotten to the point where I'm like, enough. Like, I can't even really engage too much more in these larger social movements, social media groups. And also too, that, maybe there's new communities coming in, maybe new connections with people, maybe a whole new identity for yourself is coming in that will then change this community for you. Or if you find yourself not aligning and kind of pushing away, or maybe even being pushed out, that could happen too. Or just having a falling out, or just not resonating anymore. That is creating a space for something new to grow. But this is very hard when we're talking about how we feel. And there's a certain amount of responsibility that we have, that love, really, the high version of love, besides unconditional love because you're fully immersed in the experience, right? That's the Pisces realm. But in Scorpio, there is a sense of responsibility and trust that's involved. And maybe that's being impacted in some way for us. Or maybe we're just not feeling resonant with the places that we did. Or maybe we're attracted to a new type of group or community. There's a lot of ways that can go, but the fact that it's reversed is really suggesting that whatever the reason that something like this was falling away from your life, or you are seeing it go away, it's giving you space. It's giving you the ability to prepare the space for something new to come in. But I think it's difficult. I think that this is very painful. Like I said, Scorpio time, it's not easy. This is where the rubber meets the road in a lot of ways, because then you see what your relationships are really made out of. And when you're living in very close conjunction to the natural cycles of seasons, right? Like in an agricultural community, or even hunter-gatherer, where you are relying on the seasonal changes in terms of foraging for your food, this was the time of year that you really started to see what it's all made of. And of course, the veil is very thin. And so lots of contact, lots of reaching out as well with the ancestors and people and other people that are no longer part of our physical life. There's a lot of ways it can go, but what I do feel like is that there is some sort of turning away or a renegotiation that ultimately is meant to provide the opportunity to prepare the space for something totally new to come in. It's just very painful when you're talking about the emotions. It's really a lot easier when it's all in your mind, right? Now, this is day number 2 in a row with the dog. Whom do you serve? This is really important by why this is likely inverted. Whom do you serve, right? Dogs are the... I can't... I'm going through an archive of years of tweets of a particular account. And one of the things they said were that the dogs were the freeloaders of the universe. And as much as I love all animals, of course, but I'm really connected to dogs, and my 2 dogs that have passed away are now like part of my spirit team, right? They pop up exactly when I need to be oriented, but they really are they're completely dependent on humans in all ways now, right? In terms of emotions, spirituality, energy, and food, of course. But thing about dogs is unconditional love and service, right? So this is about whom do you serve? Are they worth it? And the fact that the 3 of Keys is here, the chess game, and it's reversed, again, whom do you serve? Because we have been just through the ringer, right? Just volleyed, and I talked about this yesterday, volleyed back and forth between these 2 factions that want to control the fate of humanity. One who is completely just in the satanic agenda, but the other side is just as they're taking that position as well of trying to control and direct the course of things. It's like doing the right things for the wrong reasons. Is it still the right thing? These are questions that we all need to be asking. But what I will say here is that when the 3 of Keys is reversed, it's a pretty good indication that you walk away from this. It's still going on. I mean, it doesn't, Republican, Democrat, black or white, and male or female, cisgender, transgender, whatever. I mean, you can go down the list of all the dualities, and it's really not going to make much of a difference once the nodes shift into Taurus and Scorpio, because we're going to be going into a very feeling-based experience once that happens. That's part of our Pleiadian revival, and that's going to be really, really highlighted in a very distorted way with this full moon lunar eclipse on the 19th of November. So whom do you serve? Do you serve the king or queen? Do you serve the king on either side of this chessboard? Do you even know who those people are out in the political realm? Probably not. I mean, many of them are kept on, are out of the spotlight on purpose. But are we still serving this agenda? That is the question. And if we are, and the dog is bringing us to this reality here, like focus in on whom do you serve. If you are serving the agenda of the chess game, then yeah, your channel of divine power is gonna be weak. It's going to be blocked. It's going to be inverted. It's going to feel like it's not there, because that is not divine source on this chessboard. These are two factions two factions trying to control the fate of this planet, which nobody can control. Just so you know, nothing can stop what is coming. Okay? Nothing. Right? That was the whole point of Project Looking Glass. Nothing is going to stop what is coming. And no amount of timeline jumping, no amount of, manipulation at a social engineering level, no amount of metadata, no amount of microchips or digital tracking or anything is going to stop it. It's all mitigation for something that nobody except God is going to have any control over. Okay? So if you are serving this agenda still, even unwittingly, right? Unknowingly, because you just keep buying into all of the shit that is given to us on social media to pay attention to, then you are not going to have access to divine power, because that's not where it is. It's a walk away. Walk away. And if you are unsure, ask, whom do you serve? And that will point you or orient you in the right direction. Okay? Because we don't want to have this be reversed. This is destructive. We want to create, not right now, not destroy. Now, Pluto can destroy, and that's what Pluto does. And this is a great segue, actually, into the astrology, because we have Pluto very involved today with its square to Mercury, which is in a conjunction with Arcturus. So this is the third time, I believe, that the Mercury-Pluto square has happened since before, right, the retrograde cycle for Mercury started. So let's get right into it, shall we? I'm going to check in with the stream here and see how it's going. Awesome. It looks good. Thank you guys for being here. I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. Our little cul-de-sac of reality over here. The benefit of being so small of a channel, especially on YouTube, is that I don't need to be monetized, and therefore there are no ads, as far as I know, on my videos. So I really appreciate that. Just using their platform for free, basically. Thanks, YouTube. Okay, let's get into it here. Now, our moon is in Libra right now, as we see. So we'll get into these moon transits, but first, because you're going to see, like, we got this opposition to Chiron today. The moon is was in a trine to Saturn as well. But let's talk about some of these bigger transits that are happening. Oh, and we saw yesterday that the sun was in a quincunx to Chiron. Oh man, that was a big part of it too. Jeez. And the fact that the sun has just been blasting and blasting and blasting. It's just like whatever quadrant of the sky that the sun is in, and it's in Scorpio right now, it's just blasting information related to that in particular. Just information that is so much that it's really hard to integrate it right away. And we just have to give our meat suits some time to do it. And it's not going to be easy because Mercury is in a square to Pluto, which is going to be a huge distraction today. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be aware of it, or that it's good or it's bad. It's just that it's powerful and it will be distracting. And when you can lean into these squares and just let yourself be uncomfortable, you learn and you grow. And in galactic astrology, these squares, especially if you have them in your natal chart and they're related to your, if you're related to your starseed markings, like I have a grand square in my chart that is related to a number of my starseed markings. And normally in mundane astrology, that would be like, yeah, you're going to have a lot of tension and challenge. It's built into your DNA coding, like as a soul. But for galactic astrology, it's like, this keeps you on track. Right? You can't get off track when you have these squares like this. And so we learn so much, and it's in the discomfort that we get reoriented to where we want to be going. So cardinal energy, this is Capricorn is cardinal earth, Libra, cardinal air. Cardinal means that there's momentum, there's movement, there's something that is moving and happening. And so when they meet each other in a square, right, it's like one T-boning the other, they're moving with momentum. And so there's a real chance that they go spinning off when they meet each other. But again, it's that spinning off that allows us to get reoriented in the direction we actually want to be headed. And this square really may point out to us in the moment where we are going in the wrong direction. We're not paying attention. That's also part of it too, right? If you're not paying attention, it's more likely when you're going to collide. So that's happening today in conjunction with Arcturus. So major Arcturian starseed activation today, and Pluto is now direct, and so this is even more, and Mercury is as well. So this is much more out in the open, in our external environment, what we are interacting with that is manifesting or manifested outside of us, right? And Pluto in Capricorn, of course, is just pulling the thread out of the rug to the point where we won't even realize that it's gone until it's too late, unless we're really, really tuned in to every thread that's getting pulled out. But Mercury in conjunction with Arcturus is like just direct downloads from Arcturus, right? The keys to how to live in harmony and how to live in balance in a social context, or honestly with the universe, and specifically transmitting this knowledge to people. Arcturian starseeds tend to be very strong transmitters telepathically through patterns, through sound, through color, right? Transmitting information, which is just energy too. It's just a frequency, transmitting it, teaching it. Also, vocations that have to do with design and architecture, and feng shui is a big one. And so there's a lot of interest in things like ancient civilizations and ley lines and sacred geometry, because these are the actual application of our knowledge of what it means to live in balance and harmony with the universe. These are, how you design your community, right? How you actually physically design it, how you design a building or a space. These are all very much related to the Arcturian nature. So, Mercury is just getting we're just getting direct download in some ways from Arcturus and from these beings that are, very advanced and have only the growth and success of, all life in this galaxy, especially, that's their focus. They are the teachers and the wisdom keepers. So in terms of the way we communicate, how we think, what we think about, how we process information, all these mercurial things, it's just we're just getting this information, and now it's being applied out in square to Pluto, which is actively mulching our matrix of reality. And has been for a long time, but it's getting closer and closer to the Pluto return of the United States. So this is turning on. So this is a time to remember, because this particular degree of Libra is really about seeing through to the big picture, of life and death, the full extent of what it means to live in harmony with the universe and with everyone around you. And it's the ability, specifically the ability to discover this cosmic meaning in every single experience. Now you can see why it would be in a square to where Pluto is, because one has to do with the actual material institutions of reality and actually building something sustainable, and the knowledge of it, the use of our intellect and our expression to discover a transcendent meaning in every experience. So we will have this ability to discover it and to act on this discovery, but it's going to be very uncomfortable and certainly provide a lot of friction with the very real and very raw and very authentic experience and powerful experience of Pluto that is just destroying everything that we've come to rely upon in our culture and in our society. So this is an important point. Mercury's not going to come around and square Pluto again until Mercury's in Aries, right? Yes, I believe so. Yes. Now it'll meet Pluto. That'll be a whole different ball of wax when that happens. But it's our thought process having some real tension with the very real experience of what is at a societal level. It's very it's not easy. This is not easy work, but it's, the cycles of time are assisting us if we choose to align with them and kind of slingshot off of all of this. All right. So that's the first big one. Next is we talked about this yesterday, that Mars is in a quincunx with Rahu, or the North Node. And so we mentioned this yesterday. Again, Mars is the co-ruler of Scorpio. This is very intense time. That Knight of Wands is right here. And when we're in Scorpio, the contrast to the very essence of Scorpio, which is we're all in this together on this tour bus to hell together, we equally feel into what we are surrendering in order to do this, our safety, security. Remember, what's opposite of Scorpio? Taurus, which is safety and security and material security, survival, right? This is being part of the natural world, which means having to survive the, nature is merciless. It's not nature that we have to, necessarily pray to for mercy, because there's none of that coming. It's just natural cycles. Oftentimes, now you understand why maybe the devil is is the same in the tarot as is represented by Capricorn. So anyway, we have to contend with what we are leaving behind, and there's a nostalgia to that. And I think many of us can, to a certain extent, realize this, especially with the Eight of Roses. We just talked about this. We have to let go of some things, and let go of some old identities, old places that we felt like we belonged. Things are shifting in that way, but it's okay to, even if it's an accidental releasing of this, it's okay to just allow ourselves the opportunity to feel into what has been and what we're letting go of and surrendering to move on. And it's kind of an ego death thing too. But where Rahu is in Gemini, as we're getting so close to Alcyon and just the end of the nodes in the realm of the mind, staying open to the blessings that are coming as we truly go through the looking glass when the North Node reaches the 0 to 1 degree position. But right now, what we're doing in terms of our karmic collective trajectory here is to stay open and be ready to receive what's coming down the chimney, so to speak, what is being brought to us, because what we're doing is we're moving backwards in the way that the nodes, they naturally move retrograde in relation to Earth, which is at the center of this chart. soon we will be looking right through the looking glass. I mean, that will be where we, oh boy, we'll talk about that later. So this quincunx here is like, how do we stay on the head of the dragon that is taking us while the pilot, right? You know, that part of Mars, part of us that is literally on the dragon being like, let's go, is kind of thinking about everything that got left behind and what things had been, and our own ego desires and our own sense of self and actualization of self. That's, we're leaving that behind to a certain extent, which is very interesting for Mars, because that's what Mars represents, is that part of ourselves. So it's an uncomfortable adjustment that needs to be made. But the benefit of that is that then Mars slips into the second to third degree of Scorpio today, which is all about cooperation. And really, then we find ourselves, each of us, really ready to act on. There's that Knight of Wands. We're really ready to act on creating something together, and that stepping up and everybody coming together and creating something in a cooperative way. So that's pretty remarkable as well. So there's lots that needs to be left behind of where we're coming out of. That is a little bit difficult, but the adjustment is going to be our alchemy, right? It is going to create and synthesize a new experience from two aspects that seemingly don't fit, which is our immortal selves and our biological selves, right? That's what we're here to do. We're not here to shed the mortal coil necessarily until it's time for us, but we're here to live as immortal spiritual beings in a biological meat suit. Nobody's been able, that is God's territory, right? I mean, what else? And they're really trying. I mean, you can see in terms of genetic experimentation and the manipulation of DNA and cloning. I mean, anything. And you can take it up to, not even just Earth. If you want to start talking about other races, other beings that come from different star systems, I have a feeling that they've, it's not the realm of lower beings to do the work of the creator. And that's the work of the creator is really somehow that we're able to live as immortal spiritual beings in a meat suit. They can't recreate that. And they're trying. They're definitely trying. Okay, guys. So what else? The big ones. Okay. All right, so, and then the sun is in a quincunx, here's our sun, to asteroid Ceres, which is in conjunction with Aldebaran. Aldebaran is, we've talked about this, the left eye of the bull. Aldebaran is one of the royal fixed stars. It is Archangel Michael. Remember, Ceres is retrograde. So there is a sense of new opportunities, new open lands, right? There really is, but it's retrograde right now. So the new open lands have to start within first. They have to start as a template within first in order to pioneer into these new places. Now, the sun in a quincunx, again, there's the quincunx, right? And we need to adjust. We need to exercise our alchemy in order to make these two things fit that normally wouldn't fit together. The sun in Scorpio and Ceres in Gemini. And we really are starting to feel the responsibility in a good way, where we want to help other people. We want to enact that humanitarianism. We want to rescue people that are drowning, right? Because we feel a sense of responsibility towards each other because we are together. And that's what it means to be in a productive relationship, either personally, collectively, whatever, business-wise. There's a sense of responsibility there that really translates into a feeling of love, and it creates trust and creates intimacy. So where this doesn't fit is that there is something brewing when it comes to Ceres is the goddess of agriculture and the grain, and there are new lands, but it's still inverted. It's still internalized experience. It's still kind of brewing under the surface, and if we aren't fully aware of that, then I think is when we become discouraged or look for other places to draw or to realize that channel of divine power. So the quincunx is interesting, and I think I want to expand on it a little bit more as we go through the moon transits, because that is also relevant to what that is going to mean. So first we're going to look at earlier, where the moon, not that long ago actually, the moon was in a trine to Saturn. Okay, this is an air trine. This is actually a very stabilizing force for our emotions, right? This is, I think, probably one of the most stabilizing aspects for our emotions that we can have right now. So it's like these two aspects are forming the base of a triangle, the moon in Libra and Saturn in Aquarius. And we've talked about where Saturn is showing us the preformed mental archetypes of who we're going to be, what the society as a whole is going to look like. The human collective of humanity, and they're just preformed wax figures. They're not actual people yet. They're just something for us to really get our mind to wrap around. And in fact, I feel like it's worth going back and kind of investigating, because they've been sitting at these degrees for so long. And we can be inspired. I think that's a big part of it. The inspiration one may derive from the appearance of exemplars who present to us the archetypes of a new culture. And so they're here, fixed symbols, mental archetypes, but we can be inspired by what they are. We don't accept that these are, in fact, what it is. We are being provided some sort of symbol or archetype or figure in which to be inspired by. The trine to the moon in Libra. Here is our peace of mind. Here is some very strong emotional stabilization that comes from Saturn. And it's the idea that no matter what, there's always that flame of our spirit or our soul to return back to. No matter how dark, no matter how desperate it is, no matter how lonely or lost we each feel, there always is that flame, Vesta, asteroid Vesta, that's at the center of who we are, that's eternal. And we can always return to that when everything else seems really bleak. And we're finding some stabilization emotionally in this trine to Saturn, because Saturn is, in fact, anchoring these mental archetypes as patterns to imitate, right? Now, it just depends on which Aquarian collective you find yourself aligned with, really, that you are going to find any kind of solace or any type of stabilization with. I guess it really, really depends where you find yourself. And so it's a stage of vision. And so the vision and the anchoring of that vision is allowing us to find emotional and intuitive stabilization to the point where even if everything feels like it's falling apart or there's nothing left, we can come back to the fire in our soul. And that's going to, when we feel deserted, that's going to be what allows us to warm our spirit in that moment. So that's pretty substantial. I feel very, I'm feeling that, Saturn is right now in my first house. I am an Aquarius rising. So Saturn is one of my Saturn rules Capricorn and is the co-ruler of Aquarius as well. So Saturn is very strong in my first house right now. So it's been really anchoring this into my identity, and then everything else around it that's just like trying to have an impact on Saturn, and you just can't, right? It's almost immovable in a physical way. But I feel the stabilization really strongly now. So I hope you do too. I really do. I hope that you get the most out of this. And it really depends on where it's at in your chart, the area of your life that it's going to impact. So when we move past that, what we see is the moon comes into a opposition with Chiron. So this is a real strong challenge as well, with especially with these other things we just talked about, how the Mars is in a quincunx with Rahu, and how the Sun was in a quincunx with Chiron yesterday. So a lot of challenging energy here when it comes to Chiron in Aries, right? Aries. This is suggesting here, this opposition, we coming out of like some really turbulent waters and finding a calm mind in order to kind of reflect back and be like, oh, that was really turbulent. The opposition, right? The place that is pulling on that, right? This is pulling one way, pulling us into a sense of calmness, some peace of mind, a sense that we've gone through some turbulence and now we can look at it with a calm mind on the other end, right? Like we went through some rapids and now it's very calm, and you can go and be like, oh, you remember that? I went through that. Whereas, how are we going to stay? See, the thing about this and why it's such a challenge is how do we stay in our victim mode if we are over here with like peace of mind and peace of soul about what is turbulent? How do we stay entrenched in that victim savior mentality, in that wounded healer mentality? How do we stay over in this like really, we're still grappling with we're still grappling with this transition or this changeover moment where old images start to represent new things to us with the help of some sort of teacher or some sort of guide or some event in our life or experience that shows us, hey, this actually means something different. And when we talk about Mercury in conjunction with Arcturus and it's square to Pluto, being able to discover the transcendent meaning of every single event in our life is really going to trigger in some ways where Chiron is in Aries, because it's one thing to have this moment within each of us to be like, oh, I see how this could, this evolved into meaning something else now. But Chiron being like, no. If it evolves to mean something else, if I evolve to mean something else now, who am I? Right? Who am I actually? Because I've built my entire identity around being this victim or being this savior or being this healer to help everybody else heal, and not actually, who am I otherwise? Who am I if I'm not this person? Well, this is the challenge of Chiron. And the challenge of the moon in Libra pulling on this is just like, you don't even have to emotionally be in the turbulence of it. You can be what? Oh, the silent observer, sitting back and going, oh, that feels really strange and very conflicting and uncomfortable. And who am I, right? But when you're in that silent observer, when you've pulled back and you like look back at the turbulence with this calm perspective, after having lived through it for a moment, you can be like, yeah, who am I? Because I'm not that identity, because that's just an identity attached to an ego structure. And those are all important. But you step back and you're like, well, if I'm not that, then who am I? I guess I get to figure that out. Or maybe those aspects aren't who I am at all. They're just expressions of personality, and they change just as much as anything else changes. So I think that we have a lot to gain from that perspective of realizing that our identity and ego-based structures change just like the seasons do. And if we're too attached to them, we're going to feel like we're dying or losing ourselves or not who we are. So this opposition is really important. And then here is the moon comes into a trine with Ceres, right? So we know that the sun, which means this is called a semi-sextile. When they're one sign apart, it's a semi-sextile. It's 30 degrees. And so there's harmony, but it's very, very subtle. because they're right next to each other. So there's a connection there. There's a familiarity because they are next to each other. So there's a natural progression, but it's very subtle what their connection is. But the moon is in a trine to Ceres. Now, this degree, first of all, this is the degree that Mercury retrograded back to. And this was the degree that Mercury was at on the day of the new moon. This is we're getting into the balsamic phase now, right? The last 2 days of this lunar cycle where the moon's going to be nothing but a sliver. So these are not good times to make a lot of rash decisions, especially having that Knight of Wands at the center. This is going to be, and Mars in Scorpio. It's going to be difficult not to do that. You have to be aware of the impact of a balsamic moon. It's all reduced down to its essence. So, but this particular degree is one that I find in starseed charts a lot, and it's very challenging because it's the problem of transmission, where you accumulate and acquire so much knowledge, but then it's bottlenecked because you have to then somehow transmit it to a group or a person or a crowd of people, whatever, who are not familiar. That it's all new to them. And so you have to figure out, well, I've accumulated all of this. How am I going to then release it all? And this is a real struggle for people who have multi-dimension or tapped in and working with their multi-dimensional aspects, because it's not just your past lives on Earth, but it is all of these different experiences coming in to meet right now at this moment, and trying to take all of the accumulated historical knowledge, energetic knowledge, multidimensional experiences, and then transmitting them through a very human channel is very difficult. So there's something here with this dynamic that we're all feeling personally. We're all kind of feeling like stuck, or not able to really, transmit or to allow it to move through us. And that's going to be, a big part of that too, is just this bombardment of information from the sun. And so how do we allow it to move through us? Well, that means we need a bigger, our field needs to be bigger. Our energetic container needs to be stretched a lot more. And we also have to realize that accumulating all the knowledge is not the same as transmitting it, and who we're transmitting it to and how to communicate with them, because those are different things. And so it's a real challenge to, especially Lyran starseeds. This is a very Lyran degree, but it's also in square. So I find a lot of starseeds with this in their chart because they struggle and they don't know what to do, or they don't even know how to even engage this like wealth of information and knowledge. So, but this is in trine to Ceres, which is retrograde. There's new land within us, and there's new opportunities for growth and for sustainment that are brewing under the surface right now. And whatever's going on down there, if we can, down there, you know what I mean? Whatever's going on under the surface in terms of sustainment and sustainability and nourishment and what the natural world provides for us on a cyclical basis. There's new land that is opening up, but right now it's not fully realized yet, and it's still kind of, like I said, it's under the surface, and it's internalized, and in some cases it's inverted. It depends, especially with Archangel Michael involved in Aldebaran. But there's something here that if we can apply, again, it's a trine, right? This is a, there's a sense of emotional connection to what is developing or opening up within us that will be ultimately sustaining and nourishing to us and give us the resources that we actually need from the natural world. There's something here. The sun is in a quincunx to it, but the moon at this point is very much balanced with this point. And I think it's, there's such a strong propensity here with the sun to be like reaching out and rescuing, right, those who are drowning. And that's a very strong dynamic, but that's not fitting. there's something that we have to adjust in that connection. But what is fitting very seamlessly, without any participation from us really, is this internalized and emotional and feeling-based experience of, how do I apply my knowledge? How do I share what I know about what is coming and the new lands that are opening? And maybe it's just not time to really share it. Maybe it's much more time to work with these concepts within ourselves right now. Maybe it's much more about tapping into that channel of divine power in order to communicate to ourselves. That may be the case, and then it shifts over when Ceres goes direct. And then we'll have a different experience of, the cycles of nature and agriculture and growth and sustainment and sustainability. And the fact that things need to go into the underworld and things need to find their yin phase and then contraction phase. And that's where Ceres really is right now. I do believe that represents the fact that she is in a stage where the new lands are underneath. The new lands are within. The new lands are the part of the cycle that requires us to do the work internally and under the surface. We were watching some sort of video yesterday that was about what geologically had been happening on Earth, and there was a time of like 1 billion years apparently where nothing was happening. It was all just covered in ice and nothing seemingly was happening. And I was just like, well, I don't buy that at all. And then later in the video, of course, the narrator is like, but actually things were happening. We just didn't have the right eyes to see, but things were absolutely happening under all of that ice, even though it was really still on top. I think this is a perfect analogy for where Ceres is right now. It's new, but it's all under the surface, under layers and layers of ice and snow and the stillness. And we're trying to break through and help people. This is where we're really getting our sustainment right now. But where it's really about how do we take the wealth of what is that and bring it up and out. And I think that that's going to be somewhere we can really focus, because this is, like I said, when we don't have a direct connection to that channel, the destruction and the restlessness that can result is very strong. And so we end, and then the moon comes and has a quincunx with Uranus, kind of taking us back to the new moon that this whole cycle started with, right? Because the new moon also was in a quincunx to Uranus. And, the baggage that we can't take with us on this journey of awakening, the social ambition and the accumulation of resources that's a natural part of being in a physical world, has to be transcended if we want to go through this stargate, through this global awakening process. And we're going to be going through this for weeks as Uranus transits through this degree. And this moment of quincunx here is while we're like, let's fantasize about perfect form and the perfect society. And that's really great. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're going to see again that we need to adjust ourselves in that moment and try to find a way to activate something or alchemize that situation rather than staying in total fantasy land or being really hyper fixated on this, right? About I got to drop as much baggage as possible and being really, because Uranus does not allow for any real, stability ever. And in Taurus, this is a constant uprooting of our stability. And then the day really does end in terms of transits when Jupiter comes into a direct square with asteroid Vesta. And while the flame, right? The flame at the center that holds us all together, that it revitalizes us, which is our inspiration as a group, right? The hearth flame that Vesta represents, and the Vestal virgins or the priestesses that are responsible for maintaining that fire as a symbol. that was a big release valve yesterday. And now we are in a position where we're being tasked with, okay, well, we felt that. So now it's time to transmute that energy into something way more than just base animal drive. In terms of how we feel, the square to Jupiter, these fixed squares, I'll tell you, so staunch. The square to Jupiter is like, this is not about raising any kind of emotional or feeling-based energy. This is about every training, constant training. I mean, Jupiter is just throwing lightning bolt after lightning bolt, and he's just like, dance, dance, and dance, and dance. You are part of my circus. Oh my gosh. And it's to train your animal drives to be able, not just for what we're producing together, but like be able to hold the energy of the entire collective. And Jupiter's relentless, just larger than life, right? It's just like, I am the Pope. I am in control. I am the leader. I am the guide. I am the guru. And I am doing, everything that I can to keep you literally on your toes, and everything is a training opportunity, every single thing. And again, the square, right? When they come and they T-bone this is way more about what's going to sustain us as a community, what's going to hold us together, what is going to keep that eternal flame being eternal. It's going to be about taking that aggressive animal instinct that was getting vented yesterday and transmuting it into something more. This is very powerful magic. Okay, very, very powerful magic. This is much more about just being able to hold that energy, right? The water bearer of Aquarius. This is much more about using it to create and produce something. This is the power of symbolism. This is the power of ritual. This is the power of our subconscious, because this is where we create from. So there's something very powerful here that is going to be way sustaining, that Jupiter is going to keep what it represents. It's going to demand our attention, because that's what Jupiter represents. It's the biggest, right? It's the biggest, and it's full of hot air. Going to demand our attention. And so this discomfort here is really going to be a challenge to, how do we, because we could get destroyed, right? Fixed square, right? They are very solid in their element. So when they meet each other, air and water, they are going to seemingly just stay in their positions. And so there's not really much room to move around when they meet each other. It's just kind of crush and crumple us. And so we have to be willing to take responsibility. This is much more about, can you hold the full energy? This is way more about, Scorpio, taking responsibility for what we produce in the first place. And this is going to be where we find our sustainment and our spiritual inspiration of what we produce in the first place. Jupiter in Aquarius is great, but it's not going anywhere very quickly, and is constantly, just coming back around to be like, okay, here's another chance to train. Here's another chance to train. Here's another chance to train. Train yourself to hold all of this energy, right? To be the container of water, and then be a conductor for the lightning bolt. This is definitely much more of a hands-on, directly involved type of energy that we need to be very aware of. So let me see if there's anything else going on. I think that's it for today. And when we look at tomorrow, which is the 3rd, I mean, we're getting into the very darkest parts of the moon. And so a couple of the main things that are coming up tomorrow, I mean, the moon will move into Scorpio. So that means it's going to also meet Mercury, the last day of its post-retrograde shadow. That means on the 4th, when we are bombarded by more CME energy from the sun, we also are going to have Mercury move out of post-retrograde shadow. So new territory for Mercury, very close to Scorpio, by the way. And it's going to be, the moon is then going to square Pluto as well. So there'll be an emotional and intuitive echo of this Mercury and Pluto square today. The moon, like I said, will meet Mercury still within a 2-degree orb from Arcturus. So the moon will meet. There's going to be a lot of this like really direct emotional connection to all of this stuff in Scorpio by tomorrow. And then Mercury, that's going to be the big one, was the moon meeting Mercury. And then on the day of the new moon, the moon will meet Mars as well. And that will be, I feel like that's some supreme agitation, but also some really strong feeling to act on things. So that's something to consider as well. And then we have our new moon on the 4th. So I think that'll do it for today, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. If you're interested in a reading or energetic support for your process, you can go to Catalyst Energies, or if you want to get on my mailing list, I'm sending out emails about the new services that I'm offering through the email list. So you can go to catalystenergies.net and sign up for the mailing list. There's a splash page that comes right up, and you just put your email in, and then you get 3 emails a month from me, letting you know about all the exciting things that I'm offering and new things that I'm bringing down the pipeline. So you can also connect through social media on Facebook and Telegram. That's also in the description box. And yeah, I love you guys. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. I am so honored to be part of this journey for y'all. So there is going to be, I'm going to be offering another reading sale that's going to be focusing on the eclipse season in particular. So if that's something that interests you and you want to look at the next 6 months related to the eclipses in particular, put a pin in that now, and I'll be putting out the promotional material very soon, probably through an email. So it's a great time to get on the email list so that you know exactly when that's happening. All right, guys, have a great day. Take care of yourselves. Really bask in the moon in Libra. I know that sometimes it can be kind of wishy-washy, but the reality is we kind of need something to balance us out emotionally right now, so that we are prepared for this Scorpio season to really kick off on the new moon. So take care, everyone. God bless, and I'll see you